First off, I'm a Harry Potter fan.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I was 15 the first time I picked up the Philosopher's Stone. I still pick up the books, and I'm 28 now. I would usually defend the movies when I heard people give them shit, but my defense grew a bit weaker after The Order of the Phoenix. I know a lot of fans hate on the book for being a bit slow-paced and dull at times, and therefore a lot of people embrace the more lighthearted, fast-paced movie adaptation. But for me, this has been my favorite book since I was 16, and there are several reasons for that. First of all, as I said before, many people claim it's a bit dull and slow-paced, but I actually found that to be key components that built up the overarching theme of the story. The theme being, in my opinion, isolation.
In spite of being back at Hogwarts, I feel more alone than ever.
Throughout the book, we read about Harry's internal struggles, about the friends he loves but pushes away because he feels like no one in the world can understand what he's going through. And I have to say, with good reason too, who can understand what it's like facing off with Voldemort? What kid at that age has seen a school friend get killed right before their eyes? This kid, who has no parents, who lives with a family that hates him, apparently just because he exists, who was given a flicker of hope and some purpose in life when being introduced to magic and to Hogwarts, but who still can't seem to find one peaceful year in what's supposed to be the most important years of a kid's life. It's no wonder Harry feels alone. And for the first time, I felt like Harry finally became a very real and relatable character. And the feeling of being alone is something that I believe almost every person can resonate with at one time or another. And J.K. Rowling communicates Harry's loneliness painstakingly well within the course of Harry's 5th year. So we as readers understand very well why Harry feels the way he feels. We're invested in it. But this feeling of loneliness, although crucial, is still only one part of what makes Harry relatable. The other part is Harry's display of anger. When Harry rants, when he accuses his closest friends. And yeah, for the people who haven't read the books, Harry is a ranting, babbling, bumbling band of baboon in this book. And I have to say, his rants made me feel good. They felt justified. And I think it's because as a reader, you understand why he feels the way he feels. It's like all these past horrors are stuck inside a cauldron, and there's a lid on that cauldron. But in this book, Harry just rips that lid off, and he finally gets to express what's been bottled up inside him for all these years.
Need to have another 10-year-old?
This one deserved it.
This is as real as it gets. Harry's mad, and he has all the rights in the world to be mad and to express that anger. And in this way, Harry becomes very humane and real and tangible. Certainly I at 16 could identify with that. But let's talk about the film. Where does the film go wrong? It's certainly not an easy book to adapt into film. And it's not like the film didn't include major events of the story, like Harry saving Dudley, Harry's trial, Umbridge is sent to power at Hogwarts, Dumbledore's army, Fred and George leaving Hogwarts, the Department of Mysteries, Sirius's death, and the epic duel between Dumbledore and Voldemort, of course. So what if they cut out Quidditch, or St. Mungo's Hospital where they see Gilderoy Lockhart again?
Excellent.
I don't really mind that. And the movie actually starts out by setting up the plot pretty well. Voldemort wants something he didn't have before.
We believe Voldemort may be after something.
Serious?
He's after a prophecy. But what happened with that prophecy? Why did Voldemort need it that much? They kind of built it up to be something big, but then what's the result? The prophecy breaks, nothing seems to happen, but something does happen, only not in the movie. And Rowling dedicates an entire chapter to this, where Dumbledore gives Harry the explanation for everything, and I mean everything. I'm not going to spoil it to you, so just read it and love that shit. But Dumbledore basically blames himself for every pain that Harry has suffered. And this chapter is again filled with Harry's expression of anger. He rants and screams at Dumbledore, he thrashes his office. But what do we see in the movie?
I know how you feel, Harry.
You don't.
We get basically 1.5 minute worth of an explanation with no real emotional reaction from Harry. But the one thing that the movie does a good job with is showing Harry's loneliness and his isolation from the other students. But when we never see him express any real anger or emotions, we're left with these scenes where we have no real idea of what's going on inside him. I would actually go so far as to say that the feeling of loneliness without any form of reaction on Harry's part is redundant to the story. Now, we do see some reactions, but they're always kind of vague and almost phony.
I said I'm fine, Ron.
And now we get to the biggest mistake of the movie. The film explained Harry's loneliness with Harry being manipulated and ultimately possessed by Voldemort. And Harry does get possessed in the book, but it's explained quite differently. So the whole foundation for Harry's isolation and loneliness in the movie is not Harry's painful history, but rather Voldemort's plan to isolate Harry from his friends to make him more vulnerable.
So weak, so vulnerable.
If I were you-know-who, I'd want you to feel cut off from everyone else. Because if it's just you alone, you're not as much of a threat.
Now, while that is most definitely an interesting take on it, it completely removes Harry from the humane emotions of going through what he has gone through. Suddenly, Harry isn't that relatable. And when Harry's not relatable, why would I care if he's isolated and lonely? I'm not invested anymore. So, in my opinion, this movie had probably one of the most important roles to play of all the movies. And that was to first of all explain why the past happened the way it did. Why did Voldemort try to kill Harry as a baby? And then it had to set up why we should care about Harry's journey from now on. Why is that important? Because in the next book, Harry's supposed to learn how to defeat Voldemort, to try to end it all. In many ways, the Half-Blood Prince is like the beginning of the final act, and the Order of the Phoenix was supposed to give us the reason, the explanation, and the motivation for Harry's journey onward. And I genuinely believe that the rest of the movie suffered because this one wasn't able to do just that.